Good afternoon, YouTube Live. I guess the choppiness goes to show you that just buying all the time isn't the way to go. You got to know how to do both sides of the equation. So just keep that in mind in here. Number one. Number two in here is definitely right now is about what to key off of. So if you didn't know, I trained a lot of people when I was with that New York City day trading firm in the 90s. And I opened a bunch of offices in Atlanta for them. And I trained between 20 and 30 traders at least, and every single one made money over 9 years. So, and the reason is correlations, number one. And number two is keeping them on the right side of the market. I didn't press the button for them. I didn't tell them exactly what to trade, but I showed them the direction. And that can really come in handy. So let me give you some of the things we're watching. Like today, you saw the thing about the House passing like a budget bill or something like that. So, some, what's it called? Reconciliation or something with more syllables than I have. So it's they're proposing to cut Medicaid. Well, of all the stocks you watch, which one would get hurt the most by a cut in Medicaid? Now, or the traders perceive it. How about Walmart? Yeah, Walmart's acting the worst. Yeah, definitely the low end retail. And so you have Walmart down. So that's one of the logic things. So do you key off Walmart? Well, today is all about keying off NVIDIA. And keying off that NVIDIA, this was all put in our video last night and talked about in the chart patterns mastery this morning. It was all about that flattening before the close. So just that nobody wants to be in anything if NVIDIA has earnings. So just keep that in mind in there. So that's another logic thing for you. If that's true and you have that theory, then you need to combine it with a chart pattern. So keep that in mind. So the first thing, though, and we went over this at length on Monday in 2 rooms, is how the heck do you know what to key off of? How did I teach everybody how to do it? Well, number one, all the stuff about the big boys are doing this or that. Number one, it's big people. Just keep that in mind. Big people in there, not big boys. That's number one. Number two in here is every day the conditions change. There isn't a magic bullet. There isn't a holy grail. So every day they change. So I want to try to help you with what we're looking at and what seems to work and what traders are keying off of. Keep in mind the same algorithm isn't there every day. So if you're going on like a support zone, but the Bitcoin is plowing down, it's probably going to nail things under support. So let's go over it and I'll show you what we're talking about. Number one, I look at about 5 major indexes. I look at the Russell, I look at the Dow, I look at the transports, and of course the ES and NQ, those 5. So those 5. I look at Bitcoin when I think it's going to make a difference. So what do I mean by think it's going to make a difference? Number one, that's a whole thing. If you come in noon and you're going to just trade an hour a day, that's not the way to make money in the long run. Now, there are things you can set up that you don't have to watch every second, but you really need to know what the conditions are. That's why I get on before the opening. So let me show you what we're talking about. Number one, correlated indexes. The ES, the NASDAQ, the Russell, the Dow, and the transports. Now, why am I showing you that? Because there's a time and a place where the correlations matter. So what I mean by, and that's what I mean about their different things to key off of. So number one, right now, why is everybody watching Bitcoin? Because this was one of the main beneficiaries of Trump winning the election. So, and I'm not saying it is because I'm saying it went up because of the election. You can say every excuse in the world you want. But the key is if that breaks, A lot of people are worried if an election break, if we're going to go all the way back to here. So when this goes down enough, which it is, then the ES listens. That's why today, every twerk on the downside of Bitcoin, the markets are listening. Look at a 5-minute chart of Bitcoin. Look at the 5-minute chart of the ES. Not every day. That's what I'm telling you. Every day the conditions change. But if you prepare yourself correctly, you'll be way ahead of everybody else. Way ahead of everybody else. So number one, overall market perspective. I can't stress that enough. Overall market perspective. So the overall market perspective to me is about 6 factors at the moment. Now, keep in mind through all of this, we're talking about NVIDIA going back to unchanged. Or the market's going to unchanged because they're worried about NVIDIA. So far, so good. The ES was up 35 when I said that. But what you're going to notice is, number one, the slope of the S&P is very similar to the slope of the Bitcoin. You see that. Bitcoin went up, stock market went up. Bitcoin went down, stock market went down. And that's because the daily chart is so dicey in Bitcoin. So now it matters. When it was in this area futzing around, that's not what to key off of. But when you get a major break, you better use it as a key off of kind of idea. So that's number one. All right, number two, we watch correlated indexes in relation to their moving averages. I'll show you what we're talking about. So we're talking about 5 different moving indexes. Now, you could use the German, but it hasn't worked. You could use the Nifty, the Indian 50 market. That has a massive divergence. But it's not perfect because the ES has gone up for a long time. Long time it's gone up. But just keep in mind that that is a divergence in the long run under the 200. Just keep in mind the purple right here. But really, if you don't want to get that esoteric, just use these. Use the Russell, which is under the 200. Use the Dow, which is at the 200. Well, it's a little above it. That's why I'm not that bullish on the Dow, to be honest with you. There. So that's why actually I'm looking at the Dow, the ES, and the NASDAQ to maybe go to the 200. So I'm watching the Dow closely. It better hold this little bear flag. So let me show you a couple of other things. Like I said, these are things anybody can do. Once you learn them once, you sort of learn them. What it means is don't look at every wiggle as a divergence. Just don't look at that. But if certain indexes get under that 200, so you have the Russell on the left, you have the transports on the right. So you have this. You have both of them under the 200. On the other hand, so let me just share this with you. I'm happy to share it. So there's your 200. Remember, most a lot of hedge funds use the same things. Just keep that in mind. They use the same things. But the criteria of their algorithms change every day. That's why you need to have this kind of stuff. So like I said, there's no magic bullet on this. So they're both on the 200 SMA. Let me put that up here for you, just so you get a perspective. And thanks, Jack. Yeah, that was a pretty good call with the markets. We've done fine in Meta. We came in long Meta, short Apple. That's a beautiful thing. Up 15, down 5. Yeah, you couldn't ask for more in there. So that was good. But getting back to it in here, both under the 200 SMA. Well, now go look at the ES on the left and go look at the NASDAQ on the right. Both way over it. Now, keep in mind, last week I told everybody, watch the 20. Watch the 20. And if the Russell and the Dow transports got enough under the 20, then the NASDAQ and ES would listen. It's all about, are they going to listen? That's all you're doing. Are they going to listen? That's all you care about. So what we're talking about in here is definitely if the Russell is down here and the transports are down here, then if they start selling off, the NASDAQ and ES will be more sensitive to it. It's just what traders are keen off of. So they're definitely keen off the Russell and they're keen off the transports. Both of them not up much today. Now, like I said, though, traders are also watching Bitcoin because Bitcoin went down enough that traders need to listen. That's all I mean, because they're worried about that. So, in fact, if you do the Trading View competition, I'm not going to show you the results because it's paper trades, but we've been shorting Bitcoin all the way from up here. So, just to let you know. But the key is that if the thing that broke and traders were nervous about it continues to go down, then the NASDAQ and ES are going to have a tough time mounting a big rally. So, I mean, that's what's been working. So let me go and show you this. So I'll show you. And like I said, this is something everybody can do. Go on something that a ton of people are watching, like Bitcoin. And if you see Bitcoin break, you know the ES and the NASDAQ are probably going to listen. You're also combining economic and earning stuff. NVIDIA has earnings coming out. So that has something to do with it. So just keep that in mind. NVIDIA has earnings. So if Bitcoin goes down, it's more likely to hit the ES because it should flatten anyway. So just keep that in mind. That's what I'm watching. So it should flatten anyway. So you're watching this. Now, a lot of people asked me about advanced decline. Last week on the Essentials Room and the YouTube Live, I did a thing on advanced decline. What's it doing today? Yeah, nothing. That's right. When everything was up, the internal stunk. So does that mean to short the world? No, but it means not to chase rallies. Look at that. That's pretty ugly. Just keep in mind when the high was of the ES. It was at noon. When was the high of the advanced decline? At 11. I've told you, keep that in the back of your mind. So the internals were weakening. What that means is bearish patterns are more likely to work. So if the internals are weakening and Bitcoin's going down and the Russell's starting to go down, why should the ES be up 50? That's the whole point. So the easiest thing, in my opinion, is to add the things that might affect the markets. So if the Russell and the transports are under the 200 decisively, then you got to watch that 200 in the other indexes. Now, obviously, if the Russell and the transports go nuts on the upside, maybe it gets invalidated. The key for us today was the Russell going to reclaim that 200? And it didn't. It failed miserably. So let me go and show you this. Just so you have it in your hip pocket. I put these all the time in the Chart Patterns Mastery on StockTwits and on Twitter. So keep that in mind. I have to ask Lorna if I'm allowed to do a share grid. It seems to me that I should be able to, because you're in the other rooms too. So let me share this. Nothing's proprietary in here. I just want you to know that nothing is proprietary. So in fact, the thing of some crossovers is something I just looked at online today on the internet. So here you go. Can't put this in the YouTube Live, but I am happy to put it in the Essentials Room. There. Sorry, 15 charts, not 15 minutes. There. 15 charts. So the whole point in here of what I see is I don't see any reason to buy anything in here. If I saw Bitcoin out of nowhere up like 1,000, that's different. But right now, it just looks like markets want to flatten by the close. Now, you might say, well, why didn't you short NVIDIA? Well, the first thing, though, is to go through the criteria. Like I said, if the Russell doesn't go up, which it's not, and the transports aren't going up, which they're not, then the S&P and the ES and Bitcoin going down, then the S&P and the the NASDAQ are going to listen. What it also means is the lower these go on the right, the less likely that support zones are going to work. Just keep that in mind. It's all probability. Do not worry about price support if the things that made it go down are still going down. Then price support is less likely to work. So just keep that in mind. Just can't stress that enough. So first thing, key off, do the research. Go through all the indexes that I'm showing you. Transports, Dow, mainly transports and Russell. To me, those are the most economically sensitive. Right now, people are worried about a weakness in the economy, whether they should or not. It's not my call. I'm just going on how traders are acting. They're looking at the transports, the Russell, saying people are perceiving the economy is weak, so we're going to sell everything and ask questions later. So if these don't reclaim there, then the worries about a slowing economy are still intact. That's how it looks to me. So just keep that in mind in here. Keep that in mind. So if these don't reclaim the 200, then it's less likely the ES is going up. And I think you see that. It's just less likely to go up. And that's what's happening. And just so you know, we're flat. So we came in short Apple, long Meta. So, but this is what we were keying off of. So we were keying off the Russell, the Bitcoin, and the transports. So, and you could throw in the internals for that matter. So that's what we're keying off of. We're finding the charts that correlate or the charts that have already really diverged negatively, and we're using those as our tell. And that's what we're doing. So I'm telling you, anybody that says, oh, the advanced decline never matters, the Bitcoin doesn't matter. Yeah, they do matter at times. So just keep that in mind. They matter at times. And that's what I see right now. That the Bitcoin and all that, like I said, if you're going to play to the downside because of my theory that the markets would be unchanged, if the advanced decline was going straight up, you wouldn't believe that. If Bitcoin was straight up, you wouldn't believe it. So you want to combine it. So the first thing to do, and this is what I taught all the traders that I taught, you go over the major indexes and how they're acting. If Bitcoin's reversing, and Bitcoin has been a big indicator of speculation. So it's been a big indicator of speculation and risk on. If Bitcoin goes down enough, this starts to worry about it. That's what this is all about. They start to worry. No more, no less. They just start to worry. Now, should they? Well, let's just put it this way. They care right now, and I'm watching they. So if I'm watching the Russell go down, like you saw, and you're watching the transports go down, then you got to look to lean short the ES. That's it. Just correlated indexes. And like I said, every day the conditions change. But if I give you the things to key off of, you can develop this yourself. You don't need some special indicator. So you got the ES and the NASDAQ. Ultimately, I think they go to the 200. But let me ask you in here. Let's see who's followed me on Stock Twits or in other rooms. Where did I say the S&P was going? Jack, don't answer. I know you know. Where did I say it was going? Let's see who gets this right. Remember, correlated indexes. Now, don't say it, Jack. So Jack's in our chart patterns mastery room, and I think he's done pretty well listening to our ideas. No, February 3rd levels. Make it as easy as you can. If the Russell is at February 3rd levels. Now, why on earth am I talking about February 3rd? Because that was that Sunday night panic. That was that Sunday night panic about tariffs. Came right back. But guess what? The Russell's back to that panic. So where does that put the S&P? Where it went yesterday? If you're wondering, that was posted last week on our Chart Patterns Mastery and on Stock Twits, February 3rd. How about the NASDAQ? February 3rd, went right there. So now you have the transports, February 3rd. They've all gone to February 3rd levels. Now what everybody's worried about is what's next. So if the Russell doesn't hold February 3rd, everybody thought it reclaimed it today. If it gets down to here, testing that, now you're at the beginning in the election. You've given back the entire election rally. You're already under it. But here gets you to September. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So a lot of people, well, I started it, I think, about the February 3rd levels. So if those February 3rd levels are decisively broken. See, the Russell right now is at January 13th. Where are the transports? They're at January 13th. That would put this down to this panic. So just keep in mind, if the transports and the Russell continue down, that's a big if. But if they continue down, then this could go all the way to here. Now, keep in mind, if it futzes around here for days, then this is going to start catching up. So it doesn't have to go to here, but just keep that in the back of your mind. So right now, traders are keen off of transports, Russell, and Bitcoin. That's why we had them up here this morning. We had up the Bitcoin. And what happened? Bitcoin just had a bounce. And ES had a bounce. That isn't a surprise. Look at that. So the next thing I wanted to show you was this. I'm really into initiation. Now, what do I mean by initiation? Not a fraternity or whatever. I'm talking about initiation on the short or long side. One of the biggest mistakes I see of traders is to go into, let's say, Hood and buy it on the way down. So the problem is you don't know when it'll stop going down. So our ultimate, this was on our charts, is that support. But the key is not the support. The key is the turn. I know that everybody is sick of hearing me say this in Chart Patterns Mastery, but you're looking for something that turns. So if you see a daily chart go to support like it did yesterday, then you're looking for your turn. Now, I did an essential session last week that one of the identifiers of a turn is when a bar is higher than two previous bars. So that way it's on the way up. That's one way to do it. Because if you bought here, well, let's take it hourly. When were you finally safe? Were you safe here? Well, you better be out. Now you have a backstop. This bar was higher than this one. But now if you bought there, at least you have a good stop. You have a backstop. If you buy here, you're dead. And keep in mind another thing, like the martingale strategy. That means every loss you double down. Every loss you double down. Just keep in mind, that's like if you were doing coin flips and it's heads 5 times in a row. And every time you double your bet of it being tails, eventually you'll be right, but will you have enough money to continue doing it? So just keep in mind, a double 30 times is like $1 billion or something. It's I forgot 1 + 1, all that stuff. So the key, and that's what starts a margin call. You might end up being dead right, buying on the way down, but that's what margin calls are like because most people get wiped out. So the key is that turn. So just keep in mind, the key is the turn. So if you see the NASDAQ and the Russell not bouncing, what makes you think a turn is going to stay sustained? That's why correlations are so much better. So, and like I said, on what I do in here, shorting in a strong market, it's not strong if it's rolling over. And like I said, what did we make money on today? We made money being long. Just because I like to show both sides of the equation does not mean I'm a perma bear whatsoever. I'm an opportunist. So right now, is this really a bull market? Well, it isn't in the Russell. And if the Russell's not in a bull market, what makes everybody think the ES is in a bull market? But keep in mind, I will not look for shorts when it's going straight up. I'm looking for shorts when it rolls over. So just keep that in mind. I'm comfortable doing both kinds of trades. It depends on the situation. Bitcoin rolling over, damn right I was comfortable shorting. There's a time and a place. Shorting here? No, I'd be looking to buy. So because it broke out to the upside. So that's why I'll do both sides of the market. We came in long Meta. Good one. We were long here. We were long, well, right here. Now, a lot of people jumped on the same idea on other sites, but we got long here. We got out today. Good one. I dual broadcast that one. So that was pretty cool. I saw some people on Twitter do the same thing. So that's one. So what was the turn? Well, if I see this go to its support, see that support? It's a zone. It's not an exact price. But near that area, I'm looking for the trigger to buy. So if I want to buy on a 5-minute, I better see it get over something. I usually use the ATR trailing stop, but that's the next thing I thought I'd show you when you wanted me to share these charts. Let me show you. So what you're going to see in here is this. See these? Nothing proprietary. This is right out of internet. Let's go take Amazon. And if you're in here, good trade to play it toward 215. So all this is taking a 5 moving average and a 9. And when the 5 crosses the 9 on the downside, it becomes a red arrow. If it crosses on the upside, it's a green arrow. That's it. That's it. So the key is, why on earth would you have that? Because if I'm short and the stock goes down real fast like it's doing, it gets too far from the ATR trailing stop. So I don't want to use that as my cover point. I want my cover to be something else. So I want my cover to be something closer. So that's all it means. But as you see, it's in a bear market. So, and the other thing, and you need to see this in here, is right now, this is why if I wanted to short something like Bitcoin, which we did, the first thing is identify the shorter term trend. If you're day trading, go to an hourly chart. Is Bitcoin in an hourly bear market? Yes. So bearish patterns on a 5-minute are more likely to work. So the key is, first, is it in a bear market on an hourly chart? If it is, then a 5-minute chart is more likely to work. That's all. It means those bear flags are more likely to work. How about Tesla? Well, you know I've talked about Tesla going to 276. I still think it's going to 276. On an hourly chart, it's in a bear market. I know nobody wants to hear that because everybody only knows how to buy, but it's in a bear market. That means that the bear flag that we identified this morning right here was more likely to work. That's all it means. It's all about probability. So I'm keying off all the things I showed you, but then this was posted before it broke, by the way. That's what you pay me for. But the probability of that breaking went up dramatically if you're taking all the things I showed you, all the keys. So all the correlations. So I hope that helps. Hope you enjoyed it. And Chart Patterns Master, I'll jump right back on. So take care.